Liftoff and the clock has started.
This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy each and every time.
Fellow time travelers, welcome back to Timeless Spirituality. I'm your host, Daniel the Past Life Regressionist, and now it is time for Episode 2, Past Life Regression and Karma 101. But first, I have to point something out. In episode number 1, I told you guys that I was going to be doing a lot of reflection based off of what comes out of these episodes, and that I was going to treat beliefs as beliefs and facts as facts, and that I'm going to avoid making absolute statements to the best of my ability. Well, I can tell you this. I already violated one of those in episode 2, and that was making an absolute statement. So I'm going to call it out right now. There's a point in the episode when I use the word definitely in reference to something that really shouldn't be an absolute, because definitely really represents 100%, when in actuality, the statement that I was making represented a 99.9% probability in my book. So, I'm going to do my absolute best to avoid using those absolute words. That is my reflection for the day. And with that said, it's time for episode number 2. Christine Rodriguez, I am so excited to have you as my first guest on Timeless Spirituality. So Christine Rodriguez, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, just thank you so much for such a generous offer and having me on as your first guest. I feel so wildly honored and just so excited for you and your journey as a podcaster. I always love the content that you create, and I really value the work that you're doing. So I know that you're going to really bring just so much value to the world around you and not around you, around the world, whoever is listening to this podcast and your future podcasts. And so I am also a podcaster with a great love and appreciation of podcasting. I have a podcast. It's AstrologyNow, which is a Vedic sidereal astrology podcast I recommend listening to. I am a social worker. I'm not currently practicing, but I do have a master's in social work, and I worked as a social worker for a couple of years. I am a yoga teacher, again, Vedic astrologer, and really just kind of like student. I am a truth seeker and really just wanting to understand more about this physical reality, how to connect deeper, more with truth with a capital T. And I am Daniel's friend, which I'm so incredibly grateful for.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And
yeah.
Yay. It's episode number, I think it's going to be episode number 2 because I'm doing a solo episode first, but for all intents and purposes, it's episode number 1. So yay.
Oh my gosh. Thanks. Yeah.
So for all those of you who are wondering what's Vedic astrology, I'll just say it's really cool. I practice Western, but Vedic is very, very, very accurate. And we're going to do another episode that's going to dive all into Vedic astrology.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, I want everyone to, I don't know. What do you want to say about that one, Christine?
No, I mean, thank you for that. And I think that it's great that both of us practice like different types of astrology, because I think that it can bring really interesting information from 2 different spheres. And I think that it is important to talk about what Vedic astrology is, because the topic of today's podcast is karma. And so you and I are going to get all into karma and how it's relevant to the work that we do and just what it is. And Vedic astrology is essentially looking at your genetic blueprint of your karmic makeup in this life. And so we're using where the planets were astronomically at the moment of your birth. So the precise placement of the planets to see what kind of karma you came into this world with, what kind of karma you're going to be creating and playing out. So it's incredibly fascinating. It's such an honor to get to practice in this life and be able to be acquainted with Vedic astrology. And how it's different than Western astrology is that Western astrology is based off of the position of the sun and where the sun is positioned in the sky. It also has to do with like where the sun is positioned relative to the equinox or to the equator, excuse me. And so Vedic astrology is based off of the astronomical placement of the stars. So for example, it's November 15th, 2021, while you and I record this. If you were to download a star app or get a telescope and look into the sky, you'll see that Saturn is astronomically, literally, physically sitting in the constellation of Capricorn. And so that's the type of astrology that I study, is it's the astronomical placement of the planets at any given moment in time.
While in Western, Saturn is in Aquarius right now.
Yes.
So Christine taught me about that. Vedic is actually based on where the planets are at this very moment astronomically. So that kind of blew my mind when she taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so, well, I guess we did get a little explanation for what Vedic astrology is. So Christine, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And yeah, we're going to do a whole episode that's really going to dive into Vedic astrology. And well, I'm looking forward to that one too. But for today, we're here to talk past life regression and karma. So, title of the episode, Past Life Regression and Karma 101.
I love it. So excited to hear what you have to say and how you, I mean, I always love these conversations with you. That's why you're like one of my very best friends. So I'm excited.
Aw, I guess the only difference right now is that we're recording this conversation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because it's generally how our conversations go. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that and talking about smart sweets.
Right. Yeah. Smart sweets are incredibly important to talk about.
Although,
and other delicious snacks that we find that have like healthy alternative sugars.
Hey, there's a lot of carbs in those, though.
Oh, well, you know.
I noticed that. They taste delicious.
They do.
Yeah. Anyways, where were we?
Past life regression and karma 101.
Past life regression and karma 101. So to start out, what is past life regression? Well, Daniel, I'll tell you what past life regression is. Well, thank you, Daniel.
Have me answer it, and I was like, no. Yes, take it away, please. What is past life regression, Daniel?
Well, thank you. I like that echo. So past life regression is a form of hypnosis where you go back in time to revisit a past life. I almost said that with some swagger to it. Now, when I say go back in time, you are using the time machine that resides inside of your subconscious mind. So you're not physically going back in time, but you're using the time machine of your essence to go back in time. And it is super cool. So, Daniel, what is past life regression used for? Okay, well, thank you, Daniel. Let me tell you what it's used for. Number one, simply curiosity. A lot of people just wonder, who, when, and where have I been throughout history? I think it's something that anyone who, I wouldn't even say that you have to believe in the concept of past lives to have the experience, because I've had, say, multiple clients who are incredible skeptics. But it's usually their significant others who book the session for them. And they're like, okay, I'll give it a try. But I think you have to have curiosity. And if you are willing to explore that, because that's the other key component. Those people who were skeptics were still willing to explore the possibility of past lives and seeing what their past lives were. So that's a key component, or one of the main, I guess, reasons for seeking a past life would be curiosity. Another one is it can be a healing modality. Now, I have to say right off the bat, I'm not a doctor. If you're having health issues, go see a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a past life regressionist. However, there are a lot of circumstances where Western medicine cannot explain why someone is ill. Western medicine just has its limitations. So sometimes Western medicine cannot fix the problem. So a lot of times when people have hit that wall, that's when they'll come to me. And how it can be used as a healing tool, let's just say for the physical right now. Let's go for something such as back pain. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a past life regressionist. Someone, let's just say in this circumstance, has been suffering from back pain for 20 years. And 10 years ago, they went and had surgery. Surgery stuck for, let's just say, a month. The back pain came back. They went to the doctor again. Doctor's like, you know what? Let's just wait it out. So you wait it out. Nothing happens. The pain is still there. So this person goes through surgery again. Same thing. Doctor's like, well, I don't know what's going on, but let's just go in there and see if we can tweak some things or cut some things or whatever it is that doctors do sometimes. Again, I'm not a doctor, so that's why I don't know. And the pain subsides for a little while, but then it comes back. And then the cycle continues. So at that point, the person will come and say, look, I've had back pain for 20 years. I don't know why this is. The doctors can't fix me. I'm desperate. This is my last resort, is trying past life regression. And what we will do is go in with the intention of uncovering the source of the back pain. 9 times out of 10, I find it to be the source of a fatal blow in a past life, either from a weapon or from a fall, from being crushed, anything of that nature. So what we would go in and do at that point is release the subconscious memory of that event to let it go. And I know it sounds overly simplistic, but that's all that it takes. But the flip side of it too is you have to be willing to part with that part of yourself, because a lot of people in that situation wouldn't know how to fully let go of that pain because it's been such a part of their identity. And in this case, for 20 years for that person. So what would their life look like without being that person with back pain? And a lot of times that can be very daunting to people to let go of. It's just that image that they have of themselves in their mind. So you have to be willing to let it go. So that's just on the physical side. Look, we can come up with many other examples, and there are many other ones, but there's your one for physical for right now. Let's go to the emotional side of things. For me, for as long as I can remember, and I'm 35 right now, but I always had this deep sense of sadness that I couldn't quite pinpoint. And this was before I came around to past life regression or past lives or anything remotely close to anything spiritual in that nature. And I never understood the sadness. Now, the sadness has subsided with time because I've gone back and revisited past lives and uncovered moments of deep sadness. And one that I'll talk about right now is when I lost my entire family. This was about 1,000 years ago. And I'll just stick with that part of the story right now. I lost them and they were gone. And it killed me emotionally in that life. But that sadness carried over. So once I was able to go back in my own past life regression and identify that, then it can be released. Now, all of my sadness wasn't gone at that point because what's subsequent? Be grammatically correct here. Let's just go with it. In the subsequent years since I discovered that, I've uncovered other past life memories that have contributed to that sadness. And every time that I uncover another one, it feels like part of that sadness is lifted. So it's through a process of forgiving and releasing. Again, it's overly simplistic, but somehow it works. And another reason that past life can be helpful, or past life regression, is you get to connect with your higher self. So any question that you have about your life can be answered. Now, sometimes the answer may be, look, Daniel isn't ready to receive that information, but that is very rare that happens. As I'd say, still about 90% of your questions will be answered because you are ready to receive that information. So anything you can think of can be asked in a session. And yeah, so that's my quick past life regression one-on-one. And Christine, you've gone through the process a couple of times. So is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, and I just really enjoyed getting to hear your perspective. and how you prepare people for a past life regression. I remember now in our first session, you kind of sent an email giving me what to expect. And I think that it's just really helpful. I think it's so helpful for people to be in the right frame of mind for the past life regression. And I think that something else to add, I mean, you said curiosity, and I think that curiosity is so profoundly important. And then also like surrendering to the experience. Like if you're going to do past life regression, I think that you want to be all in, because otherwise you're going to be like holding yourself back, or you may not fall as easily into the subconscious space where all of that information is stored. And so it's, it may not be as potent, but if you really allow yourself to surrender to the experience with like a really invigorated curiosity, I feel like that will give you the best experience. And I think that you've said this before as well, just like not having any expectations of what it's supposed to be or what you're supposed to see, and just let the subconscious mind and that deep space within yourself kind of speak for itself.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one other thing that did come up while you were talking, one example that I missed, I think, which is a key one, is relationship dynamics. If you have ever wondered why you are drawn to someone, or there's someone that you feel like you cannot separate yourself from, past life regression is a way where you can receive some clarity. Now, it may not always be the clarity that you want, but it may be the clarity that you need. And again, I know I'm going to keep repeating this, but the overwhelming majority of the time, if you feel drawn to a certain person, odds are that you knew them in a past life. So you can understand the dynamics that are at play there, and they become slightly more tangible, which I feel is very beneficial, because if you've been caught in a toxic pattern with someone for many lifetimes, there's a reason that it keeps continuing in subsequent lives. It's because you haven't found a way to break away from it.
Totally.
So when this information comes to you, you can see, oh, I need to make a change. So yeah, just wanted to throw that one in there too about the relationship dynamics. And with that, let's pivot to karma right now. So Christine, take it away. What is karma?
Yeah, well, I mean, just really briefly before going forward, is like, if you're not ready to witness what is stored in your past lives, like you won't see it. Because I remember whenever I went to you for the first past life regression, I had asked about my then partner and I didn't see anything. And at the end, you were like, why didn't Christine see this person? And then the subconscious mind was like, because she's not ready to see it. So you will only really see what you're ready for. And of course, I learned that through that experience. And so, anyone who's going to you, just make sure that it's not Daniel's responsibility to pull this stuff up. It's all happening inside of you energetically, right, Daniel?
Oh yeah, I'm just the guy who asks questions.
Right. And so karma, I feel like karma, if anyone is familiar with spirituality and the spiritual community, they've heard the word karma. And I think that it's something that gets thrown around a lot, and for good reason. I think that it's such a powerful concept. And I think that it's something that can kind of easily encompass what we're trying to convey. And I know that you brought me on for the specific reason of talking about it from a Vedic perspective, because karma, the word karma and the definition of karma, did originate in Southeast Asia in the traditions and the belief systems of Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, and Buddhism, in these Southeast Asian religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs. And so all of that being said, because this word, this concept was born from religion, it has a very specific definition. And so it's not something that necessarily should be thrown around without a complete understanding, because I think that when we really dive in and understand karma and do some research into what karma is and how it works, what it does is it helps us navigate our way through life in a more peaceful way and honestly in a more wise way, really. And so karma, you asked me what karma is. And so again, I'm coming from a Vedic perspective, is that karma means action. So when we act, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so as we move throughout life, we're generating karma for the most part. And if, we can generate good karma, we can generate bad karma, but then we can also completely neutralize karma. And it kind of depends on the belief system, just how that occurs, right? But I'm speaking from my specific lens and teachings. And so as we move throughout life, we're like creating karma. And we're not always going to see the results of our karma in this life. So sometimes there are people who are like such good people. And when you look at their life, you're like, but, they're not rich, they're not married, like they don't have any of these things that we would traditionally consider like quote unquote positive. But what happens is that positive karma can get generated and then carried with them into their next incarnation. Same thing happens with negative karma. There are people in this life who get away with murder. Maybe they don't see the consequences of their actions in this life, but it will carry over with them into their next incarnation. That being said, when we come into life, we have karma from previous lives that we've accumulated. So we have karma that has come with us. We have karma that we're actively creating. We have karma that we can mitigate. And then we're going to have karma that we absolutely have to work through. And so that's kind of the main basis of how I was taught to view karma. Is that helpful?
Oh, very.
Okay.
So I have a question. Since you read natal charts or Vedic charts or sidereal or all the above, how are you able to spot karma in a chart?
Yeah, well, by virtue of being born, like we're coming in with past karma, right? That's why we're being incarnated again, is because we generated karma. And so really everything that we're looking at in the birth chart is the like genetic karmic blueprint. So all of it's karma, but the really big indicators of what we're working on and things that have been unfinished, things that we were working on from the past, are going to be the karmic nodes of Rahu and Ketu, which in Western astrology are referred to as the north and south node. Saturn, of course, is also going to be one of those really incredible, potent karmic indicators.
Well, with that said, one of the things that I'm working on in this life is vulnerability. Like my shell used to be rock solid, rock hard. You could not penetrate that shell. And the notion of people seeing me, although I wanted to be seen more than anything, it also terrified me. And why I bring that up is because I was wondering, can you spot my karma from looking at my chart? And if so, could we talk about it?
Yeah, for sure. And so are you wanting to look at specifically the vulnerability piece and the expression?
I would just say whatever catches your eye. We can touch on that or anything else that's really like, hey, Christine, talk to me right now.
Yeah. So, you have a really, really powerful chart when it comes to self-expression and when it comes to like skill development. So, I mean, honestly, you have one of these charts that I would use as an example to demonstrate like an artist. There's a lot of artistic quality in terms of like making music and writing and public speaking and having like this really strong, innate courage. And the thing that's really interesting about your chart is that the placements that I'm speaking of are in a position that get better as time goes on. So that usually means that in the beginning, there's some type of tension, maybe even a little bit of a struggle. And that gives you something to work on so that as you get older, it becomes easier. So it may have been that maybe writing or public speaking or, producing music and performing, there's going to require some of that practice. And I don't even necessarily want to say require practice, but you're going to have many opportunities to flex that skill set.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that is totally there, totally powerful. But the vulnerability piece, and this is what's so interesting, is that you have Venus placed in the fourth house in its own sign, which is really beautiful. The Venus is receiving full directional strength in the fourth house. And that means that it's really powerful, that it's forming actually really powerful yoga for you that is giving you sensitivity, and it's giving you emotional intelligence, and it's giving you the word that's coming to mind is like sukha in Sanskrit, which is like sweetness. And, like I'm a Cancer rising. This is partially probably why we get along, is because you can understand my emotions and you want to talk and you can talk through things. And so it is definitely giving that sensitivity and that ability to be vulnerable, really. And in addition to that, you have Saturn directly aspecting it. So it's like you have this like really soft center, and Saturn is maybe giving it a restriction, and it may be giving it a fear, because Saturn can also bring fear. I love your Saturn. I think that Saturn is doing just fine. And, Saturn usually can give restriction, and it can give fear, and it can give anxiety, and it usually takes time. Like that's what Saturn does, is it makes us act with wisdom. Usually after the Saturn return, things get easier. Certainly after the age of 36, when Saturn has fully matured, things get easier. But I do think that that is why there is this work that you're doing around being vulnerable, because the truth is that you are incredibly sensitive, and you have a lot of really deep, touchy-feely emotions that is like making you such a great past life regressionist, and so good at asking questions, and so good at holding space and connecting with people. And with that Saturn influence, I mean, I would imagine that there's fear of that being completely seen and being completely felt, and probably, even hurt. And I know we can cut any of this out that you want to if I'm getting too deep, but that's what I would read into when I'm looking at this chart.
It's interesting that you brought that up at the end there, because while you were speaking, I mean, first off, just thank you for sharing all that.
Mm-hmm.
My inclination is to go edit all this out. Like, that's the feeling I have, is because it's like, oh my God, people are going to be listening to this. She just said that I'm very sensitive. Do I want to be seen like that? Oh my, but she's right. She's true. Like, it's a true statement. I am very sensitive. And then there's that part of me that's saying, no, Daniel, no, 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 you are not going to edit this out. Mm-hmm. Like, you are here to work on that vulnerability. So what if people know that you're sensitive? I'm like, what do you mean, so what? Mm-hmm. So what? Yeah, this is actually what happens in my head while I was receiving everything you were saying at the same time. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not going to edit this out, because I feel that that's what the test is here, is to have that option to edit it out, but to say, no, I'm not going to. So it's daunting. Like, because I think the difference between this type of expression and when I perform as a musician is, when I'm singing and playing guitar, it's me, but it's also not me. Yeah. Because I'm not conversing with the audience. I mean, maybe between songs, but it's not a raw conversation like this. Whereas also with a song, I can spend months finding the right words to use, and, well, let's switch this around here just so it has a better flow. Whereas the pure raw vulnerability is right on the spot, and it's like having my feet cemented into the ground, saying like, no, you can't walk away from this right now. Like, you've got to do it. And, I don't know if this is a question that you can answer. Maybe. We'll see. When it comes to the karma of that, when I was younger, I mean, self-expression was like, what did that term even mean? I think that was a very foreign concept to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned that I have writing talents,
Mm-hmm.
which, yeah, well, I do. But writing was very difficult for me when I was younger. So was reading. I couldn't really read, I don't say read good, but read well until I was middle school, high school. I mean, high school was when I really started to get my footing underneath me when it came to reading. But I was struggling with reading as a child. Then still, the irony of the situation became once I was having those standardized tests my senior year of high school, my reading comprehension was just, I don't want to say off the charts, but it was swinging in a very different direction than it was when I was a child. And I feel that strife and that struggle to really overcome not being able to read built a lot of character, and not being able to write. Like it helped me develop a deeper appreciation for it when I was able to do it, because now I read all the time. I love reading. I love writing. And I'm really starting to love self-expression. So my question for you is, when it comes to the karmic component of that, do you think, or can you see in the chart that it was something that I had to experience karmically because of a misstep in a past life? Or was it something I needed to experience earlier in life, in this incarnation, because of a misstep in some other area in my life in a previous incarnation that needed to be rectified in this life? But in order to balance that karma out, I needed the struggle of reading and writing and self-expression earlier in life.
That's really interesting. And to be honest with you, like I would have no way of verifying, right? Like I would not really know the specific of what occurred. But what I can tell by looking at your chart is that this is 100% a karmic thing that you were meant to experience. I mean, it's without a shadow of a doubt, just because of where your Rahu is placed and, being conjoined with these other planets. I mean, it's for sure. Rahu is what we have to experience in this life, and it's where our focus is going to be. And Rahu can also obscure things. It can make things kind of shadowy. It's like the smoke and the mirror effect. So it can certainly create that like confusion. And as I was mentioning earlier, it's in one of these houses that gets better as time goes on. And when we have these houses, it's usually more challenging in the beginning. So it offers us this opportunity to work through the challenge so that it becomes something that we're pretty good at. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does.
And so that's, yeah.
So my Rahu is in my third house in
That's correct.
Vedic, right? So what does that mean?
Well, the third house is the house of skills, and it's the house of like publishing smaller bits of materials. It has a lot to do with our oratory skills and being able to like stand on stage and perform, speak, play music. The third house is one of the most creative houses. It also has a lot to do with like photography. Third house is understated as like an occult house. Like I feel that a lot of people who are interested in things like tarot cards and astrology, they usually have some connection to the third house. And what's really important to remember about the third house is, what does it require to stand on stage and speak or perform? It requires courage and willpower. So the third house is also the house of courage or willpower. So we really hope that people have like strong third houses, because willpower helps you in so many different areas of your life. But again, it is one of these upachaya houses. And so the qualities get better with time. Usually things are hard, they get better. The third house is also an education house. It's early education. All right. Ninth house and fifth house are a little bit more higher education, but the third house is like you were talking about. It's like that time period in school. So you struggled early on. as you moved throughout your life, things got a lot easier. So the skills that you cultivated early on helped you into your young adult life. So is that helpful?
Oh, very.
Awesome.
So since my K2, which would be the south node in Western, is in the ninth house in Vedic. I know it all gets skewed here, but we're just going with Vedic today.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's in the ninth house, which is higher education, correct?
Yes.
And since that's where I was coming from in the past, what would that be an indication of karmically?
Well, K2 can separate us from things. And we have to remember that in Vedic mythology, Rahu in K2 was a serpent. And it's like a dragon, and it got severed in half. And so we have the head of the dragon, which is Rahu. It's like this insatiable desire. It can talk its way through anything, so it can be quite illusionary and deceptive. And then we have K2, which is the tail, which it has a lot to do with spirituality because it has no really necessarily like needs and desires. But as you were mentioning, it can represent where we're coming from. So an area of life that we're quite comfortable with. K2, under some circumstances, can also represent something from past lives that weren't quite yet completed. And so it can kind of have like a stinger on the tail. It can kind of like sting us because it can also create separation in this life. So for you having K2 in the ninth, honestly, like when I read K2 in the ninth, it could certainly, you have like karma around education, right? And so for your chart, to be completely honest with you, I kind of forget what you've told me before in terms of education. I think I kind of remember, but this can be like a disruption in education. It can be a disruption in higher education. And it can also represent just someone who's incredibly philosophical and incredibly spiritual, because the ninth house is the house of philosophy and spirituality, and K2 is kind of like removing the boundaries away from that area. But what K2 doesn't like in the ninth house is like the organized religion following a doctrine. So it's going to prefer, right? It's going to prefer to be much more broad in thought. Because again, it's like the body without the head. It's not trying to like intellectualize things or like necessarily have like a doctrine of rules. It's more about like the intuition and how it feels. But again, this is going to create like a very, very philosophical energy. Spiritual energy. Super spiritual, because the ninth house is the house of spirituality and K2 is moksha karka. And so in Vedic astrology, karka means significator of, and moksha is enlightenment or liberation. So because K2 represents enlightenment or liberation and it's in your ninth house of spirituality and philosophy, it's really amplifying that and making you incredibly interested. And Rahu in the third, again, the third house is like skill set and information in general. So it makes you incredibly curious, wanting to learn about many different cultures and languages and people, but then also a lot of different religions and philosophies. But you're not going to want to be like tied down to one thing.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
So one thing you'd mentioned there was like talking my way out of anything. I think that was the way you phrased it, or something.
Well, Rahu in general is that, and your Rahu and Mercury are 1 degree apart, and Mercury is how we intellectualize and how we communicate. So that would definitely apply to you.
So I think that one of the lessons for me in this life is, and I'm going to briefly touch on a past life right now, which I will touch on in a more wholesome way in a future episode, which was, there was a life where I was, I guess you could say, very dishonest, and I benefited from it in that life. Like, that's how I made my living. So I feel that in this life, I have that ability to manipulate. And oh my God, I'm actually saying this right now. But why am I saying this? Is because this is how I feel I'm countering how I misused those, let's just call them skills in a past life, was I used it for personal benefit. Whereas now that I have this awareness, it's like I want to go out of my way to say, yeah, I can manipulate you, but I won't. So one of the things I even do when I'm talking to potential clients is I'm a horrible salesperson. Like, I am horrible at selling because I'm too honest. Like, I'm not trying to convince them why they should do a session with me. I'm trying to convince them that, hey, are you sure this is right for you? I would benefit from it if you did a session, but is it right for you? Are you ready for it? I'm not going to fix you. I need you to know that going into this. So how that also relates, I feel, to my struggles with self-expression is when I was younger, I felt that like lying and manipulating was wrong. So still didn't do that. But I also didn't know how to be honest about my feelings and how I was feeling. So I didn't express it. So it was almost like going the route of silence because I didn't want to lie about what I was feeling. So I just didn't say it. And yeah, but I feel in the act of also saying, yeah, I have that skill to manipulate, but I'm making a choice not to use it. That's not something I would have done in a past life. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. What's manipulation? I don't do that. I'm making a choice not to do it now. But I also feel that karmically, it's like having that at your disposal, but being like, you can't use it because that's not the right thing to do. It is so easy and difficult for me at the same time because the position that I'm in is one where I could easily take advantage of people who are grieving, who want to have something addressed. I could prey upon that. And I could say to them, you know what, this thing that you got, it's going to take you 20 sessions with me. But that wouldn't be right for me to do that. So if someone comes to me with an issue, I just say, we'll do one session. If you want to do more, we'll do more. But I'm never going to say to you, you're going to need 20 sessions to address this, or you're going to need 10 sessions to address this. Would I benefit from that? Of course I would. If I were to lock someone in for 20 sessions, but it's wrong. It is so wrong to do that. I feel it's wrong to prey upon people like that because that's what I did in a past life. So does any of that speak through the chart?
In terms of your kind of like virtue and...
Yeah. Or am I manipulating everyone right now and I try?
No. I mean, like, I think that when we're looking at Vedic astrology, there's going to be like a lower quality and then there's going to be like a higher quality. So yeah, Mercury and Rahu can certainly have this ability to talk through things, right? But it's also going to give this profound ability to communicate ideas and be very innovative in thought and be very innovative in work. And so I think that there are definitely wonderful qualities that come with this. And for you, you know, Mercury rules the fifth house and the eighth house. So the eighth house can be very transformative. I think that it really speaks to your past life regression and what you use your voice for. And it is also the fifth house, and the fifth house is incredibly virtuous, you know. So I definitely, I could see it. I could see it going either way. I think it just depends on how you choose to channel it. But I think that what is really important to note is that you have Jupiter on your ascendant. And Jupiter is the great benefic, and it's the planet of virtue, and it's the planet of ethics, and it's sitting on your first house. So even if you had the inclination to manipulate, or you had the tools to manipulate, or you felt like you could, that Jupiter is going to be really encouraging you to act in an ethical, kind way. So I think that that's definitely adding a lot of that of where you're speaking from.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good that I was vulnerable for a reason there, and that wasn't just for nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so I think the most important thing for me to do and ask you right now is, where's this all heading? Because I feel in the act of doing that, it's going to be a way for me to hold my own feet to the fire.
Mm.
if I channel it in the higher octave, what is it asking me to do?
You know, I mean, as I was mentioning, using your voice to help people transform, help people change their lives, help people overcome their obstacles. I think that like utilizing that energy for service, because, you know, we can go one of two ways. We can either try to manipulate people or we can try to serve people, you know? And so I think that using that amazing energy and that ability to communicate and that ability to understand and empathize for the better and to help people again move through their transformations and look kind of like deep inside themselves and do that work for themselves on a personal level. Whenever we opened this call, you were like, I just ask questions. You're like, I just ask people questions. And I think that that is really like one of the most powerful ways you can channel this, because when Mercury and Rahu, like, I mean, honestly, just your chart in general, it's beyond that, but your chart in general is you can really like probe people and get them to where you want them to go. And I think that a really amazing way to channel this energy is to be a little bit more receptive with it and ask the questions and let people decide where they're going, you know, and being the leader of their experience, which I know that you already excel at. So that's really what I would say is just really trying to come from a place of service and offering and following the client. I think that that would be something really powerful. And of course, just really flexing that Jupiter on the ascendant, being a guru, being a guide, and always trying to speak with integrity and speak from a place of truthfulness, which again, I feel like you already really do. I hope that that was helpful.
I think it was. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think that sums up my karma very well to the extent that I'm aware of it right now, which I'm sure as I'm speaking in this more high-pitched questioning tone will be addressed more in time. But just thank you for that. And, well, damn, that was vulnerable.
Yeah, for
now
sure.
everyone knows.
I mean, I just want to say also, like, with that being said, with like this vulnerability thing, looking at the position of Venus and Saturn, I think that it is like continuing to share your own story, right? It's like going through your life, accumulating wisdom through lived experience, and then not being afraid to share with other people and not being afraid to inspire other people, because the third house is all about like sharing and publicizing and announcing and all of that. So I think that it would be really powerful for you to continue being vulnerable and sharing yourself in that way. I think that it will continue to really impact people and support them.
All right. I'm in. Thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with me and share that with all the listeners.
Good.
And I mean, thank you for coming on and being my first guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
You were my first choice. Like, there was no question in my mind that I wanted Christine Rodriguez on as my first guest.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, like, it's so funny because I mean, obviously, I keep on saying this. You're one of my very best friends. I have so much respect for you. And then I just have so much appreciation for the work that you do as a professional. And so I'm just really honored to be your first guest. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. And do you have any final thoughts on karma that you want to share with everyone?
I think that my final thought on karma was kind of similar to what I was touching on with your chart, is that when we act from a place that is to better the world around us, that's one of the secret ways to mitigate karma. So if we're trying not to create negative karma or positive karma, when we work to serve other people, to act as a reflection and to approach the world from a place of devotional service and devotional love, that is a really easy and amazing way to mitigate our own karma with whatever we came into this world with.
Well, that's a nugget of wisdom right there.
Good.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find you?
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in Vedic astrology, I do have the podcast Astrology Now, where I post every Friday. My website is innerknowing.yoga. My Instagram is astrologynow_podcast. And I do weekly horoscopes for each of the 12 zodiac signs at patreon.com/astrologynowpodcast.
Yes. Oh, well, that's it for Past Life Regression and Karma 101 for now.
Good.
We'll do a 102 course in a little while, or 201. See, I didn't really do conventional college, so I don't know if that adds some info into what you're saying about my school experience. So I don't know what that course number would be after. I just know 101 is introductory. So
Perfect.
or it'll be 307. I don't know. Whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next episode.
Thank you.
Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a session with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.